Thank you very much. Evening, folks. My name's Keith Cameron. I'm the author of 168 songs of hatred and failure. Come on, you can't have read it already, have you? It was almost exactly 4 years ago to the day that I started writing this book in earnest. So yes, it has taken me a long time. But it would have taken me even longer if I hadn't had some expert help. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, can I introduce to you Mr. James Dane Bradfield and Mr. Nicky of the Motorcycle Emptiness.
Now, we don't get that at gigs.
You just get off now, it's not going to get any better, is it? Well, the first thing that most people have said to me when I've told them about this book, or when they've heard about this book, is 168. 168 songs. Why 168? And I have to say, well, the answer's in a song. Aptly enough. Do you want to talk us through it?
Well, yes, the original Motown Junk, before Richie added all the good stuff, was only 68 seconds, actually. So I don't know why that was, but when me and him sat down to kind of rewrite the words, he had this very kind of precise theory that 168 seconds was the perfect time for a pop song, and it was in 2 or 3 absolute Motown classics, and that's hence why he got that in. So already his towering intellect was putting me in my place.
So yes, 168 seconds, 2 minutes and 48 seconds is on the nose, at least 2 Motown singles. I second that emotion by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles is exactly on the button, and it's a couple of Supreme songs that are on either side of it. So James, I mean, what did you think when you realised you were going to have to write a song called Motown Junk?
It's one of my most sketchy memories getting the lyrics, to be honest, because yourself and Maya have told me that there were lots of different lines originally, so I can't remember them. But I do remember myself and Sean writing in the kitchen of 20 Strivers Road, pt1 2JH. I remember being in the kitchen. It's one of those old miners' houses where you go downstairs and there's half a step downstairs, which is half a floor, and that's where the kitchen was. And myself and Sean used to go and try and write tunes like that down there. And it was the one time where we just messed around with 5 chords. It was D, G, A, B minor, and we just kind of was doing like scatting over the top of it and just finding where the rhythm went. I remember that. It was the only time we ever really did that. Other times we would just come up apart, then we would bounce off each other. But we were just actually being very open with each other and just singing lines, and it just came together.
And when you saw the word, I mean, you may not even remember this, it's perhaps unfair to ask, but when you saw this lyric with 168 seconds,
yeah.
Did you realise at that point, I'm not going to be able to get 168 into a line, I'm going to have to make it 168?
I think I was like one of those rogue kind of disciples that would always go off piste at the start. I knew I couldn't adhere to the rules that were being set by Nick and Richie. I knew I couldn't quite fit that bill, so I would just kind of ignore them sometimes. Because I knew the words in front of me were so brilliant. They just were straight away. Motown Junk, what title? Kind of Aftermath, You Love Us, kind of Antisocial. These are all the kind of the kind of titles I was getting from the age of 15 onwards. So the titles always really excited me. And then when Nick and Richie started around each other, the titles just went into a different stratosphere because they were just literally throwing words at each other, and just words were bouncing around the room, and they were just writing.
I mean, there is an irony to it, because James was a massive Motown fan, which I really resented, because he used to have fun and enjoy himself, which I just thought was fucking not having it.
I mean, I did the old shtick of, what's going on? Pollock invasion, there's a political narrative. We did use the word narrative back then. But like these songs and these records are political, but no, I got bored of the Edwards and Jones courts just kind of like convinced me as guilty.
The Politburo had their say. Do you want to give us a quick burst of the song that we're talking about here? So Motown Junk was released as a single. It was the first single that the band released on the Heavenly record label in January 1991. Now, it made a big impact. You ended up on the front cover of Sounds, which was, as everybody knows, was the UK's best music weekly at the time. Coincidentally or not, Sounds folded 3 months later. But the story carried on. In the absence of Sounds. Your second single was You Love Us, which is a pivotal moment, a pivotal statement for the band, a very bold statement. And it was a song that, although it didn't go into the charts at that point, it did eventually make your first appearance on Top of the Pops. Am I right?
Yes.
Following year?
It was our first top 20 single, but the Heavenly iteration of it was quite different, actually, and muggy and murky.
Almost a bit pub rocky, wasn't it?
It's a little bit pub rocky.
I mean,
they did well.
In Motown Junk had been done in Studio 1 in Power Plant upstairs, which was the Maggie May room. Then when we went back to Do You Love Us, there was the room downstairs, the Jade room, I think it was called.
Why was it called the Jade Room?
I have no idea. I really don't. I'd like to come up with some Lord of the Rings shit, but it's not happening. But it's, we went downstairs and with the same team. It was Robin Evans, producing, and Dave Erica, engineering. Dave's in the crowd tonight. How you doing, Dave? Yeah.
You hear it.
So it was the same team, but it just wasn't as good a result. The room wasn't as good, it wasn't as big, the vibe. We were starting to think of it too much. But the one thing that Dave Erica witnessed was that Robin Miller owned that studio. And he produced Sade, etc., you know, an 80s legend. And he walked past the studio and he said in Rock Follies fashion, that song's a hit, but not yet.
And he was right. The B-side of the Heavenly version of You Love Us was a song called Spectators of Suicide. Now this was notable, I think, because it definitely showed a kind of maybe a richer musical aesthetic than the band had maybe, you know, revealed on its previous records. And it made quite a big impact on Jeff Barrett and Martin Kelly at Heavenly at the time. They realised that this band that they'd signed for a couple of singles. They'd sensed there was maybe a bit more going on beneath the surface, and that must have been quite a bittersweet realisation for them, because they knew that You Love Us was going to be the last single that they were going to get from you.
I think it's the favourite thing that we've ever done for Heavenly for them. I think it's the song they really loved that we did, and it had quite a complicated start. It was originally a song called Colt 45 Rusty James, which was a really bad lyric. Really, it was a sort of, again, an homage to Rumblefish, but also to one of James's girlfriends.
All right, James, you have the right to reply.
Earlier on, he went for clearance. He went, do you mind if I mention the original version? I went, yeah. You didn't say it, you mentioned
This is what's called live music and conversation.
Yes. It's like Hong Kong Fooey's cat.
Sport.
I fucking told you I was in a bad mood. I'm out of my comfort zone. I've left the West End.
Ooh. Anyway, Spectators of Suicide, and it did. One of the things that tickled me about it when I heard it was my mind flashed back to that moment in January when you appeared on Snub TV. Do you remember that? When you there was this amazing interview. I'd say an interview. It was more like a monologue that, between Nicky and Richie, basically outlining what the band would and wouldn't do, or rather more like wouldn't do. And one of the things that you wouldn't do, well, you wouldn't write a love song, and you wouldn't do a trip out, which
strange
thing to say. But I think it took it to mean any music that was redolent of drugs.
It was a broadside against shoegazing for a start.
Yes.
The worst thing about that interview was they all say really cool stuff, and they go, we don't want to play the toilet venues of Britain, and then I say, we'll just go to the medium-sized venues. I've subsequently made friends, and that's the first thing they said to me, but medium-sized. It's haunted me forever. But yes, when we did that interview for Snub TV, I remember standing there, and Nick, Byron Ritchie went into action, and I couldn't fucking believe it. It was like I said yesterday about when they walked across the floor in Power Plant. I watched people watch them as they walked across the floor when we went in to use the toilet in Power Plant Studios. But we did the interview and they started talking, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? It was just like it was almost like they rehearsed it. But
it was our moment.
So at this point, you hadn't recorded Spectators yet, had you? Or had you? Because more time was just out. And so when Robin Evans said to you, James, I've got a bit of a Pink Floyd effect for you for this guitar part. What did you think? Did you think, hang on, the edict?
Well, I was a bit scared because Robin was a brilliant guy. He was a really organic engineer, but he loved punk. He loved his literature. He was a good guy. If you saw him, you realised it was a bit of an awkward fit. But once you got to know him, he was a perfect fit for us. He was a great, lovely, gentle soul. He was really skilled. But he did love his trip out. He loved his Floyd. And then he said, yeah, what about this effect? And I started playing through it and I loved it. But I immediately got the fear that the rest of them could hear it. And that I would be putting, the cells. I've been sent to Siberia. for breaking a managing creature.
I think that, to be honest, it sounded quite magical when we first heard it.
Yeah.
It'd been a song that had been around Richie. It became a sort of situationist existential anthem, that we'd been reading, I think John Savage had given us a copy of Leaving the 20th Century, situationist manifestos, and Grail Marcus, and every line feels like it's lifted from one of those books, really, in the best possible way.
And it was interesting because it was fragile. The actual performance is quite fragile, especially the vocal. So immediately, without us ever talking about it, I think we showed a completely different side of ourselves. After all the bluster and all the punk references, we showed something which was much more vulnerable and fragile straight away, I think.
I think in some ways it was quite indicative of where your long-term future could lie, or in some aspects, and certainly took people aback at that point for that reason. James, do you want to play as Spectators?
Not really. He's in charge of the set. He's very tyrannical, this guy. I'm not joking. It's okay. It's okay.
You should have seen what I really wanted you to play.
Don't worry, no. Okay, let's give this a go. So these songs are not gig ready, okay? So it's just a free and easy kind of vibe where if there's a mistake, it's coming from a human place. Obedience to the law is free desire. Under keeping from neon fire, wasting away this country, wearing like both dead. Free heroin shots for those who will not bear. Spectators of suicide, exploding in society's eyes, spreading lies from our mouths. A dying night yesterday. Only three choices for persons to bear. A life reduced to suicide or comfort pain. Cigarette, lips are red, choking on the same lines that we once said. Spectators of suicide, exploding in society's eyes, spitting glass from our mouths. A dying light yesterday. You're gonna shoot us dead. Where the words she said. You're gonna shoot us dead. Where the words we said. You're gonna shoot us dead. Where the words you wrote. You're gonna shoot us dead. Where the words you said.
Thanks, James. The song was subsequently re-recorded for your debut album, Generation Terrorists, and that was a record that you made with the great late producer Steve Brown. Can you tell me a bit about Steve and how you came to be working with him?
Steve? Well, She Sells Sanctuary was the main thing, and Club Tropicana by Wham. Those were the keystones.
Looking after number one too.
Yeah. Looking After One was a great song. Wham Rap?
Yes.
The original Wham Rap, yeah.
What more do you need out of life? And Steve we just really clicked. He was kind of old school, funny, and someone who wanted an old school producer who had lots of ideas and would lock James away on his own to come up with riffs and extra parts, and he'd give terrible advice on lyrics. All producers give shit advice on lyrics. They're absolute wankers. They really fucking should stick to music. But apart from that, we loved it. He did make me play a fucking Steinberger bass, which was fretless and had no head on it at all.
This is the bass that you
Terrible.
remember from your 80s nightmares. When it looks like a cricket bat, black cricket bat.
It does.
But no, it's cool.
And I think, like, he got me a special chair for my back to play it on. It was great because he didn't really care about the bass, so I was fucking down in like an hour. It was like, get back to your Sega Mega Drive.
Sean, meanwhile, is learning to program drums.
Yeah, the album's a mix of like real drums. What's going on over there? Come on now. Chill out. The album's a mix of like program drums and real drums, and Sean quickly learned how to kind of like just, why you learn how to be a programmer in like a day and a half or something. It was unbelievable. And then, you know, there was a precedent for that because Steve had described to us that She Sells Sanctuary was a mixture of program drums and real drums linked together, like some kind of symbiotic, kind of like driving force kind of thing. So like there was a precedent for that. And Steve was really amazing at just trying to get the best performance out of you. He really he did show me what it was to actually try and just sing a song properly. And he pushed me to come up with riffs. He was constantly I think he was slightly in awe of Nick and Mitchie because he just saw two people that were ready-made rock stars, you know. He just actually loved the idea of them being rock and roll leopards, that's what he called them.
Did you ever ask him what leopard is?
Because they just rock and roll indelibly and leopards can't change their spots. Kind of thing. But yeah, Range Rover, he taught me how to make a BLT. This is 1991. I didn't know what the fuck a BLT was.
So he introduced you to salad?
He didn't. My dad had a long night, we had lots of salad. Don't try and stereotype me as some troglodyte that just ate boiled meat.
Your words, James, your words.
But like, he was a brilliant guy. He had faith in rock and roll. He believed in it, and he did dig Motorcycle Emptiness out of lots of other demos, and he made us go forward with it. He said, "No, come on, keep trying." You know.
Right. So the story of how Motorcycle Emptiness was written, because it seems such a perfectly fully formed song, and it's hard to imagine that it was ever other than that. But in case it was actually a feat of construction, really, that it took took quite a while as well. Didn't it?
Yeah, it took forever. It's nearly as long as a fucking guitar solo. 6 minutes of guitar solo. It was existential guitar solo, though. But no, there's a really strange period where we actually become a band called Betty Blue, and we were just, all four of us were hugely into C86. I mean, it's a weird dynamic how we mixed out with Guns N' Roses, listening to the June Brides and the Loft and all those Wedding Present. We used to go to a nightclub in Port Talbot and My Bloody Valentine before they went kind of cool, when it was just Lovely Sweet Darling. So we were obsessed with that. So a part of the song called Behave Yourself Baby, where Sean's plays trumpet, is the sort of bridge or middle section. Yeah. And then there was another song called Go Buzz Baby Go, which was called Tumbling Down Your Spine, Down Through the Cracks of Your Broken Mind. So those fused, and then Steve locked James away and made him come up with the riff and more parts.
And he did literally lock you in a room, did he?
Yeah, it was in a little demo studio in Surrey, wasn't it? Near Ripley or Guildford, I can't remember. It was a place, a magical little place called House in the Woods, which isn't there anymore. They were a lovely family that ran the place. As and Tapau used to use the place quite a lot. And
see, that's a detail that I would have loved to have had in the book, but you just keep coming up with new stuff.
I know, I'm really sorry about that. I'm genuinely sorry that I didn't do that. I'm sorry.
You got it, really.
But kind of, anyway, we went there, we did the demo there, and he demanded all our demos and cassettes and everything. And then he locked me in a room and said, if you want to be Slash, then